Breaking news, everybody. The Epstein emails have just leaked from the House Oversight Committee, and we're going to go through these emails together. These are the ones that have been shared the most by Western mainstream media, and we are going to get into those that have not been shared by Western mainstream media. So let's take a look at this email here from Ghislaine Maxwell to Jeffrey Epstein. I want you to realize, said Jeffrey Epstein, that the dog hasn't barked is Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. So this confirms victim spent hours at my house with him. And when was this email written? 2011, far after Donald Trump had said he had cut off Jeffrey Epstein. Email number 2, a direct correspondence between Jeffrey Epstein and journalist Michael Wolff. You might remember Michael Wolff as writing many books about Donald Trump. He says, Jeffrey Epstein to Michael Wolff, Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member ever. Of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Of course he knew about the girls. These emails only get more damning. Email number 3 between Jeffrey Epstein and Michael Wolff. Michael Wolff said to Jeffrey Epstein, I hear CNN is planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in scrum afterwards. Then Jeffrey Epstein said, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? Wolff responds, I think you should let him hang himself. If he said he hasn't been on the plane or at the house, that gives you valuable PR or political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. If it really looks like you could win, you could save him generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and he has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of a political correctness, which is outlawed in the Trump regime. These are the emails that have been showing the most from Western mainstream media, and they are damning. They show Donald Trump had direct contact with Jeffrey Epstein. They also show that there were major journalists working with Jeffrey Epstein to get dirt on Donald Trump. But it keeps going and going and going. Here is another set of emails, okay? We already went through one of these here. This another one from Michael Wolff. There's an opportunity to come forward this week and talk about Trump in such a way that could garner great sympathy and help finish him. Interested? This is Michael Wolff, the so-called journalist, to Jeffrey Epstein to finish Donald Trump. Then Jeffrey Epstein to Sultan bin Sulayem, who is a UAE business mogul. Never heard of him. Donald is close to no one. He talks to many people. He tells each one something different. Do you know him? I heard he is so close to Trump. That's what Sultan bin Sulayem said. They were obviously working out some kind of arrangement on how to influence someone like Donald Trump. That was written in 2018 when Donald Trump was president for the first time. But the emails just keep giving and giving. Here is one that shows Donald Trump and one of the victims, which is believed to be Virginia Giuffre, who is now deceased. This is a communication between the victim, who is not named, but many believe it is Giuffre, and Epstein. Can we have dinner at Geneva on the 8th? She says, I will be there 7th or 8th of December, going back to Kuwait on the 9th. Jeffrey Epstein says, at the moment, I'll be flying to Paris on the 8th. I can leave earlier and get to Paris by 8:30. We can meet there. It's hard to fly out of Geneva. Then the victim says, question mark, question mark. Of course, you're welcome at my house always, says Jeffrey Epstein. It's more private. Very well, just send me the address again and the code on the door so I can get to the second floor. Send me the day and time. After she confirms the gate number, she says here, I'm at the door, but I will wait for my time. I don't want to come early to find Trump in your house. Written December 8th, 2017, when Donald Trump was president. So Donald Trump was, according to these emails, likely hanging out at the house of Jeffrey Epstein while he was president of the United States. But this keeps going because Jeffrey Epstein also had choice words for Donald Trump and what he thought about him. You see, I know how dirty Donald is. My guess is that non-lawyers and non-New York business people have no idea what it means to have your fixer flip. And so Jeffrey Epstein here is talking to Kathy Rumiere. And who is that? She was an advisor on the White House counsel for Barack Obama. and he connected Rumier, Jeffrey Epstein did, major business and legal contacts, which I'll get into. But according to Jeffrey Epstein, after Rumier asked, here's a story from the New York Times I thought you'd find interesting. The principal case for impeachment is clear. What's missing is the courage. And then Epstein says, I think he makes the argument that it was his money, Trump's money, making it not illegal. Though he also said he found out afterwards, and the fact, according to the indictment, was billed as services rendered and grossed up. I'm sure his account was flipped anyway. I did talk in detail to Starr yesterday regarding indictments, how Trump can make a deal, special counsel. Clinton's trash can, yes, Starr gave me more. Yeah. This is what they were talking about. They're talking about Donald Trump's impeachment proceedings, which was happening during his first term. And this was right in 2018. And so Rumier, I just want to remind people that Rumier has a long association with Jeffrey Epstein. She was introduced by Epstein to Microsoft's Bill Gates, the Gates Foundation, the Edmund de Rothschild's bank. She also became legal counsel at JP Morgan in 2019 from a referral by Jeffrey Epstein, right before he was killed, by the way, at first imprisoned and then killed. And then additionally, Epstein made her an executor of his will, which she says she had no idea actually happened until he died, until after he died, that she was notified. But we can keep going with this because it only gets worse for Donald Trump. Here, we're going to see that Donald Trump was likely spending Thanksgiving with Mr. Epstein, with Jeffrey Epstein. And here's the email thread. This is Faith Kate to Jeffrey Epstein Fund. Where are you? Back in New York City? Okay. Dylan and I will always want to see you, says Faith. Where are you having Thanksgiving? He said, Eva, that means Glenn, check out his red hair. Berries, color for holiday. He's such a snooze. Who else is down there? David Faisal Hansen Trump. Have fun. And on November 23rd, 2017, Epstein said Trump. This gets more and more damning. We get from Trump's association to even more associations linked to Donald Trump and the power elite. Here, an email between Jeffrey Epstein and Thomas Landon. Who is Thomas Landon? A finance reporter at New York Times. Thomas Landon said, now everyone is coming to me thinking I have juicy info on you and Trump because of this. When Donald Trump said that he had known Jeffrey for 15 years, terrific guy. He has a lot of fun to be with. It said he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. You may be familiar with that quote because it has gone around quite a bit. Jeffrey Epstein replies to this from Thomas Landon. Would you like photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen? Landon says, Thomas Landon, yes. And then he writes, Hawaiian tropic girl, Lauren Petrella. I'm a serious man. For the good of the nation, why not try to get some of this out there? I would not do this myself, said Thomas Landon, but would pass it on to a political reporter. And then he sends him a link saying, my 20-year-old girlfriend in 1993, that's 2 years after I gave to Donald. These are the kind of conversations that Jeffrey Epstein was having with the New York Times reporter about Donald Trump. And it reveals not only Trump's associations, but the inner workings of what was going on between all of these power players. Just absolutely incredible, absolutely shocking. And it keeps going. Here's another one from Miss Rumier, Kathy Rumier. Doesn't look like you're prioritizing your schedule, she says in reply to Jeffrey Epstein very effectively. You are going to manage all of this? This is UN General Assembly week, so the boss will be in town. I'll be here all week. You may get sick of me. Just sat down on the train and can't talk freely. This is in 2014 under Obama. Jeffrey Epstein says, girls, careful. I will renew an old habit. And here is the big shocker, because Donald Trump is connected to so many of these figures, and it shows just how much Jeffrey Epstein had on the entirety of the power elite, the entirety of the ruling classes. He says this week, Peter Thiel's, Larry Summers, William Burns. Remember William Burns, a former CIA director under Joe Biden? Peter Thiel, Palantir. We know who Bill Gates is. And then others, for example, Jagland, who is the Council of Europe and the Nobel chairman, the Mongolian president. We have major representatives from Harvard, as well as the UAE, Leon Black. Just absolutely incredible, these connections that have been revealed from these emails. Many of you may know Larry Summers as the architect, one of the architects working under many administrations, including both the Obama and Bush administrations, to essentially, as a representative of global finance, institute the 2008 economic crisis. And he has been absolutely condemned and criticized for that. But Larry Summers had a deep relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And here you see Larry Summers communicating about Donald Trump to him. Larry Summers first says, "Are you plugged into the show?" And then Jeffrey Epstein says, "Wow, there'll be some changes this week. Funny because Klaus Kaslowitz is getting turned down repeatedly by firms unwilling to represent Donald Trump." This is 2017. Again, Donald Trump was coming under legal pressure, especially under Russiagate and all kinds of scandals that were being foisted upon him. And they are discussing this and saying, there are many firms unwilling to represent Donald Trump. Larry Summers says more would represent Donald if Kaslowitz was out of the picture. Not surprising. Very hard to be a law firm representing the president of the United States and know what to do when the president lies to you. My world thinks poorly of Gorelick for representing probably Jared Kushner. How guilty is Donald of crudity? Surely. Of gross ignorance? Surely. Of being utterly without intellect, temperament for the job? Surely. Of being over the line on family profiting? Very likely. Of gross disregard for appearances? Almost surely. Of Russians having financial leverage? Less clear. Of Russians helping in an election complicity of his campaign? Plausible, but not certain. Strikes me if you work for Donald, you don't freelance, so he is guilty of whatever his campaign did. Do you agree with the foregoing? Your world does not understand. This is Jeffrey Epstein. This is really the big enchilada here. Your world does not understand how dumb he really is. Jeffrey Epstein to Larry Summers. He will blame everyone around him for bad results. Gary Cohn is in a good place, as is Jared Kushner. All others, not long for this world. Interesting argument using WhatsApp as obstruction of justice. Delete after sending. So again, this is incredible because all of this demonstrates how deeply connected all of these elites were to Donald Trump as being connected to all of these elites, and Jeffrey Epstein being almost an intermediary to all of this, almost an intermediary. It's incredible, and it keeps going. It keeps going. You have Steve Bannon. Remember Steve Bannon? He was and still is a major figure in MAGA. He is essentially Donald Trump's one of his brain children. He is considered by a lot of people within MAGA to be very legitimate in the sense that he has the kind of ideological fire that lit the Trump MAGA flame. But here is Steve Bannon in communication with Jeffrey Epstein. As he's talking about Donald Trump's issues, Steve Bannon says to Jeffrey Epstein, "Can't believe nobody is making you the connective tissue." Epstein says, "Recall Prince Andrew's accuser came out of Mar-a-Lago," which is Virginia Giuffre, by the way. Prince Andrews and Trump today, too funny. That, again, is Jeffrey Epstein making light of all of the scandals from Donald Trump. And mind you, this is 2019, okay? So this is very close to when the issue was about to take fire. I mean, we're talking about a lot of emails that were directly occurring during Donald Trump's presidency, which is going to be a major deal as this development moves forward. So here is Mr. Landon again, the journalist from the finance journalist who was very close to Jeffrey Epstein, saying he is digging around again to Jeffrey Epstein. Not clear if it's another book, extended paperback version. He was asking me all sorts of questions about why you hired Ken Starr. I told him I had no idea. I think he's doing some Trump-related digging too. Anyway, for what it's worth. And this is from another call from Connolly. So Connolly actually was somebody who wrote many books about Jeffrey Epstein, and he died actually in 2022. And now we're going to get into the financial corruption. We're going to get into even how deeply this goes in terms of foreign policy influence of Jeffrey Epstein. It's absolutely incredible. It gets really, really bad when we think about just how much these guys were influencing. Jeffrey Epstein was influencing things when it comes to U.S. policy. So here is one about Russia, okay? Jeffrey Epstein is in communication with Jaglan Thorbon, who was on that email earlier talking about he was a part of the European Council and a leader in the European Council. And he says to him, "I think you might suggest to Putin that Lavrov can get insight talking to me. Vitaly Churchkin used to, but he died. And then Thorban Jaglin wrote, I'll meet Lavrov's assistant on Monday and will suggest, thank you for a lovely evening. I'll come to the UN high level next week. Churchill was great, says Epstein. He understood Trump after our conversations. It's not complex. He must be seen to get something. It's that simple. It's that simple. I mean, this is how absolutely unhinged all of this is, okay? Because we're talking about emails that reveal not only that Donald Trump was involved, but that there was a constant web of communication between all of these elites around Trump, with Trump, trying to garner influence. And it gets worse because I want to show you actually now Tom Barak. This is one of the most damning emails because Tom Barak, you know him as the current U.S. envoy to Lebanon. Now, this was dated 2016. Tom Barak says to him, send photos of you and child, make me smile. Now, Tom Barak has deep ties to the UAE, the moguls, the corporations, Saudi Arabia, Israel, of course. He's very deeply connected to Israel. Send photos of of you and child, make me smile. It's damning. We know about Jeffrey Epstein's based on just a straight up criminal case against him, what was going on his island, what was taking place there. We know that Donald Trump was not only deeply in contact with him, but everything that he was saying was a lie, right? That it was a lie. He was saying so much that was just utterly a lie about his relationship with Epstein. I want to show you this timeline because I think it's important. In these newly released emails, all of these that I just showed you completely contradict Trump's longstanding claim that he cut Epstein off in 2004, 2005 with no contact afterward. Now it looks like Trump claims he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago in 2006, but from 2011 to 2015, Epstein discusses Trump repeatedly in emails. Epstein emails in 2016 revealed emails from Trump Tower after his win. 2017, victim writes, I don't want to come early and find Trump in your house. 2019, Epstein still referencing Trump and Mar-a-Lago. There is major panic in the White House about all of this. Trump personally called Representative Lauren Boebert, urging her to withdraw support for the bill releasing Epstein files. Now, there's a petition in the House that is most likely going to be voted on very soon to release the Epstein files in totality. It must be remembered that these are not the actual files that the DOJ has at their disposal. These are from Jeffrey Epstein's estate, which were subpoenaed by the House Democrats. And it's no wonder that I played you earlier the emails that were shared the most by the New York Times and other mainstream media publications attached to the Democrats. And I showed you others showing Larry Summers, Bill Gates, Peter Thiel, the entire network, which also includes the Clintons. Let's be honest. Now, I'm going to share this with all of you because I think it's very important. CNN is reporting that Trump held a meeting in the Situation Room. Yes, the Situation Room with Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, Kash Patel, the FBI director, and Lauren Boebert, who was summoned, that's where she was summoned to, over the House effort to force the release of the DOJ Epstein files. White House lawyers are reportedly worried Lauren Boebert, and Nancy Mace recorded their phone calls with Trump where he begged, bribed, threatened, and cried for them to reverse their votes on releasing the Epstein files. This is very bad for Donald Trump. This is very bad for the political class as a whole. And because what it demonstrates is that we are now in a moment where we can ask what exactly was going on here? Who benefits from all of this? When we look at what has been said about Jeffrey Epstein and the links that he had, not just to the most powerful people in the world, but to Israeli intelligence, right? Allegedly, he has had incredible ties with Ehud Barak and major Israeli figures, those connected deeply to the Israeli establishment. It's been reported on by Drop Site News because an Israeli spy, according to these emails, stayed for weeks at a time with Jeffrey Epstein in Manhattan. Leaked emails show Epstein worked on a wire transfer to Ehud Barak's top aide, Yoni Koren, who regularly stayed at his apartment. Mind you, this was the senior aide to Israeli Minister of Defense, Ehud Barak, at the time. And here's the email, okay? Jeffrey Epstein from Leslie Groff. A reminder, Yoni Koren to depart today to you. Okay. So on all three trips, Koren appeared to be conducting official or unofficial business with the two. A Times of Israel article from late January 2013, a few weeks before Koren's first documented stay, identifies him as still actively serving as bureau chief for the Israeli Defense Ministry that month. Dropsite compiled evidence of these stays between Koren and Epstein from schedules released by the House Oversight Committee and Barak's own hacked emails, originally released by the Handala hack team and later shared by distributed denial of secrets. He made his career, Yoni Koren did, working in covert operations alongside the Mossad and remained a lieutenant colonel to reserve duty after he officially left the intelligence directorate. He stayed in Epstein's apartment for 2 weeks in October 2014, a third time, 10 more days in 2015, and February 2013 while working with Barak. So these ties are known. Now, we don't know officially what the influence is. We can only speculate about what it all means, it signifies. Well, if we look at developments, right, we look at developments, how they've transpired, right? Donald Trump comes in, the peace president, but who has he consistently bowed to? Israel. What is all U.S. presidents, even the most powerful elites, who have they bowed to no matter what? Israel. This isn't to say that the interests of the United States power elite, these major moguls like Peter Thiel, this isn't to say Donald Trump or the Clintons, that they don't have deep connections to Israel or an alignment in terms of their own interests and objectives. But what it does say is that there possibly and may be a huge operation underway to discipline and ensure that these major power players stick to the script and stick to the agenda at hand. So when we hear that Donald Trump is seeking to pardon Benjamin Netanyahu for all of his corruption, when we hear that the U.S. is going to put a military base near Gaza, when we see Donald Trump say that he had deep connections to what Israel did in its strikes and attacks after he said he had none at all, we have to believe that this kind of operation that is at play, that we still need to know so much more about, might have had something to do with it. It's absolutely incredible development that we have to keep following, because many will ask, was Epstein a Mossad intelligence asset? Was he working for Israel? I mean, it would all add up when we look at the evidence here, when we know that Epstein was so connected to the Wexners of the world, to the Ehud Baraks of the world, was literally housing Israeli intelligence assets in his house. And Donald Trump, as U.S. president, was in deep contact with Jeffrey Epstein, and in fact was shown by Jeffrey Epstein's own words to trade in trading girls and women. And this gets into a bigger question of how deeply involved was Donald Trump in the activities on the island, and why were these activities happening on the island, this absolutely horrific, disgusting, and despicable these acts, these just crimes against humanity that were happening on this island. Why were they all congregating, these elites on this island, for this to be done, for them to engage in this? Many are saying it could be a honeypot trap. It could be a trap to gain information from them, to blackmail them. This is what people are asking, and it begs the question, what influence does this have on real policy when we see the United States behave in the way it does? You should all let me know in the comments, and then be sure to tune in to my conversation with Professor Jiang Shui-Qin, who will be on my show tomorrow, November 14th. We will talk about more the significance of this, how power actually works, how does evil like this triumph, and what does it mean for these secrets to be revealed? What does it tell us about how U.S. foreign policy, how the U.S. empire works, its relationship to Israel, what the true nature of it is, and how we can truly understand the absolute horrors that these people commit from the perspective of this absolutely bombshell operation that is now being leaked more and more and more. More is going to come out on this, everybody, because the House is on this. Marjorie Taylor Greene is on this. There are major figures who want to see more come out, but we have to look at it also with a critical eye, because partisanship is indeed something that infects the U.S. political scene. And there will be, of course, jockeying to try and make this about political parties, the Democrats. You already see Donald Trump saying it's all a Democratic Party hoax. But even on the Democratic Party side, we'll have to see how much they're willing to reveal, the entire Congress is willing to reveal, given that I'm sure there are more people who are going to be exposed by this, not just the Clintons and not just the Trumps. So here's a good takeaway. The Epstein document dump was that Jeffrey Epstein in 2018, 2019 was increasingly telling people he had dirt on Trump regarding this ring. To protect Trump's reelection campaign, Trump discharged Epstein in July 2019, and then Epstein committed you know what. The questions are all there, but the proof, the evidence from all these emails is also all there. And now the question is, what does it all mean? Professor Jiang Sui-Chin and I are going to talk about this. We're going to go even deeper into this tomorrow. So make sure you tune into the stream. Give me a comment below. Let me know what you all think about all of this. What does it mean? How does this influence the way the U.S. empire actually works? What does it tell us about the U.S. empire? Until then, I will see you at the stream. Hit the like button as you go.